Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast between Root QXC and Softball here on Metalopolis. Here we have Softball spawning at the 6 o'clock position as the blue Zerg player. Meanwhile, over here on the north side of the map, we have Root QXC. So this will be Terran versus Zerg here on Metalopolis. Should be a great game, and no reason for me to doubt that these players are in fact these players. It looks like it was taken from an event, and ooh, Orb is even watching, so yeah, shout out. I don't even think Orb knows who I am, but yeah, I know who Orb is. Anyways, back to the game. QXC pretty much probably going to be opening up with the standard 10 supply depot. We'll take a look at what Softball will be doing. Softball, I believe, is an... Actually, no, you know what? I do not know. I think I know who he is, but I don't want to misquote and then have everyone on the comments flame me. I am getting a little bit better, but unfortunately, either I gave my daughter the cold or she gave me a cold. And now we are both very much not feeling that well, so we'll see how things go. Thanks to everyone who's asking me to, well wishes in order for me to get better. We do see QXC moving out over here to see if there was an overlord. There is in fact no overlord there, as this overlord now slowly makes its way into this position here, trying to see just if those minerals or if anything's really happening here. Doesn't see that mineral patch even being mined, and he knows that there is nothing there. So now up comes QXC. QXC gonna come up this ramp, quickly see that there is no creep, and now make its way over here. We do see a hatchery now being placed down by Softball, or looking into the future. Now we now see a hatchery being placed down by Softball, so it will be a 15 hatchery here on Metalopolis. As that was a little bit of a gambit, just because he knew that his opponent did not spawn here, but his opponent had not scouted him that early. So now we see another drone now making its way over here, and the drone did see that QXC had spawned here. He'd have to play a little bit more defensively just because of the walking distances between these two locations. We do see a spawning pool now coming into play. So yeah, spawning pool now coming into play as well. We also see one barracks currently up and running. QXC currently starting to mine out of this one refinery over here. And we should see a second supply depot now being placed down. So normally, if you go for double supply depots this early, it is either for the wall-in, or you're trying to go for more Marines and Marauders, and you need that additional food relatively early. So yeah, so these games are going pretty well. Everything is looking good so far, as barracks now being placed down. And I just realized my Skype is up, so you guys probably heard that. I'm gonna have to set that to away. There we go. Now, as an SCV now makes its way back off to the north, and we do see one overlord still making its way around the map and trying to get some additional sight on the center. Back over here, we do see an SCV now coming up the ramp, trying to get some additional sight. We do not see any Vespian geysers down yet. So Softball playing a very defensive style and going to be sitting on his base for quite some time. No metabolic lings, no tech to tier 2. He is going for queens. And now, depending on the army that is being built by QXC, he may or may not try to go go for additional queens and spine crawlers in order to fend off this attack. We do see a factory now being placed down, and now a command center. So QXC trying to stay up, trying to keep up in this economic game, realized that there was no early gas, so he realized that he could go for a faster expansion. And now QXC will not be behind economically speaking, as this refinery is still gathering plenty of gas. No real rush for QXC, as QXC just is producing Marines and Hellions so far in this game. Marines trying to chase down more of those Zerglings. Zerglings now may be able to run up that ramp. No, will not be able to, as QXC is able to raise those supply depots just in time. However, QXC is currently supply locked there, and now finally putting down a supply depot. So he will be supply locked for about another 15 seconds or so, as the supply depot or the supply buildings for Terran takes 5 game seconds longer than the other races. We do see a Hellion now coming up here. We'll quickly be able to torch that one Zergling. Down it goes. And now that Hellion will be moving along its merry way. We do see one queen down here, and a second queen now trying to be trained. Are we going to get a third queen is a key question, as we are finally getting that metabolic boost underway. We do see one Hellion trying to test the waters. Will it be able to get out that ramp? Yes, it does, without any real problem. And now that queen off of that creep, trying to catch up to that Hellion. The Hellion doing a lot of damage, and now Marines coming in over here, trying to shoot down these overlords. Down goes one. Oh no, overlord down to 10 hit points. Nicely done. This queen over here will be able to take down this one Hellion. So a bad attack by QXC, but QXC now coming in, trying to deal more damage with those Marines. However, catching some Zerglings in open field, and that is always a lost cause. Marines getting caught in open field. The only thing that's worse is getting caught in with banelings in open fields with Marines. So that down over here, we do see an upgrade to an Overlord Command. We'll try to establish this expansion over here in just a moment. As a Zergling now trying to run up this ramp and trying to get some additional sight, we'll only be able to see, I believe, this factory, and that is about it. Hold on, wait, no, yeah, he was able to, no, not even see the factory as the game now continues. So back over here, we now see one Hellion down over here, one Zergling, and some more Zerglings over here hiding off to the side, as now Softball taking up a third base at the 5 o'clock location. Very, very just expansive of Zerg. Softball will be able to get a very strong economy. You can take a look at the harvester count and how much of a lead Softball has. QXC may not realize how much of an economic game this is going to turn into. QXC only sitting at 44 over 46 food with 28 harvesters. Meanwhile, Softball in and of himself has 42 harvesters. His army count is sitting at 55, 56. The army size of QXC is significantly larger, but at this stage in the game, there is not enough to really deal that much damage in order to take the win, especially with this many workers. We now see a layer in play in addition to a Baneling's Nest. I do not see a Roach Warren. So no Roach Warren just quite yet, as now an Overlord trying to come in, trying to get sight, and now we are going to go into Banshees. Banshees, a very, very strong counter against just on Metalopolis, being able to do multiple attacks. That is one of the things that QXC is famous for, being able to just multitask and utilize units all across the map at the same time, attacking at expansions and the main base all at once. We do see QXC now trying to come out with that one Banshee. That Banshee, however, will have to absorb some of that damage from those Queens. Banshee has been revealed, and now move away those Zerglings. We do see a Spire now coming in. Spire does take quite some time to build, 100 game seconds to build, so it will be quite amount of time before we get any more Mutalisks in the air, as the Banshee's now trying to come along this far side here. Zerglings out in here on the ground. They're going to try to get a surround onto these Hellions. These Hellions do not have, oh, they do have the Infernal Pre-Igniter Research, excuse me. And that is going to make it very, very difficult for these Zerglings to really deal any damage. Hellions trying to move around, and you can see how much damage those Hellions are dealing towards those Zerglings. And now those Hellion drivers just doing a great job just microing themselves and getting a lot of kills so far. So this one Hellion already up to 16 kills, 17 kills. But, oh, a transfusion, and I believe the Queens were able to take down that Banshee. So one Banshee has been taken down. And now QXC is pretty much at the same state where he is now behind in terms of one base so far, as QXC taking his main base and his natural expansion, while Softball taking this high ground expansion over here. Back over here, we now see a Medevac on the move. The Medevac most likely going to try to do a drop over here, but there are very, very well positioned Overlords all across the map, and there will be a decent early warning system, as we are now getting some Mutalisks. Those Mutalisks will be able to perhaps try to deal some damage towards that Medevac, but the Medevac now going to get in play. And is Softball going to respond in time? I do not know if he sees it. Yes, no, he does not see it just quite yet, as the Medevac now going to simply come in here, drop, and get a lot of kills onto these drones. Drones falling to the wayside. In comes the Queen. No, the Queen not even doing anything, as Softball realizes how much damage he's going to have to fight against, moving away with these drones. Drones not trying to move and attack, and those Marines doing a great job stimming, going back and forth. We do see a couple Overlords now moving out around, as well as these Marines continue to get a lot of kills off onto this main base. Queen's now trying to get some damage over there, and now there are two Mutalisks in the air. One Mutalisk has been taken down. Queen's now trying to come in as well. Medevacs once again on the move, and will this Mutalisk be able to finish off? Yes, finish down that Medevac there. It wasn't a full Medevac, but a little bit of revenge for the loss of that Mutalisk. Taking a look at the harvester count, though, 61 to 53. So even though Softball lost a fair amount of harvesters in that engagement, he is still not that far behind. We now see a command center being lifted off over here, and a mere 12 minutes, game minutes into this game, and QXC is also going to be taking up a third base, most likely going to upgrade that to a planetary fortress. One Zergling stopping the production of this command center from being able to land here, as now we have an Overlord here. So Overlords spread across the map very, very easily. We do have some SCVs now being transferred, and yes, it is going to be upgraded to a planetary fortress. And now you can see just how many things QXC is currently macroing up at this time, building an armory, getting an engineering bay, getting multiple missile turrets in order to deal with that harassment, as we now currently have 4 Mutalisks in the air and 11 Banelings. So far, Softball is still playing a very, very macro heavy game, and now down come 2 missile turrets. Those missile turrets will complete just in time, able to get off 2 longbow missiles and dealing a lot of damage really, really quickly. Zerglings not trying to come in as well. Zerglings, however, just falling once again to siege tanks. QXC moving out with those units, and a very, very strong maneuver there as that planetary fortress also comes online. Terran building plating armor with its armor of 3, and now QXC taking up a 4th base. So at this stage, I do not believe QXC really needs that many additional harvesters. He's already sitting at 64 harvesters, and with enough mules, he will be able to stay within this game fairly easily. Now, once again, those Hellions doing a lot of damage. Mutalisk is trying to come in, trying to poke apart at this command center, but I believe QXC is starting to win this expansion war as he is able to take this high ground. We now see Softball trying to take this expansion over here at the 3 o'clock location. He realizes that he cannot fall behind in the economic game. Otherwise, the Zerg units are able to be massed very, very easily, but they are very, very difficult to stay or keep alive short of the Ultralisk. We do see some Ultralisk and Roaches. We do see some Marines back over here, and now in comes one Overlord. QXC now getting 2 additional missile turrets here, and now those Mutalisks running straight into the base instead, going after some of those production buildings, able to take down some of those SCVs as they're trying to build. Marines now coming in once again, and those Marines able to get off a lot of damage. Marines are upgraded 1-0, as there are now Banelings over here, and that is going to be a lot of Banelings in order to try to sacrifice and suicide into these bases here. We now see one hatchery over here as those Mutalisks take to the air. We are getting the ground carapace upgrades in addition to more Zerglings, and now we are also getting the infestation pit. So are these Banelings going to be able to really deal that much damage is the key question. There is a planetary fortress. The planetary fortress does deal splash damage, and the planetary fortress now going after some of those units, and Baneling simply just going to come into here trying to sacrifice, and able to take down the planetary fortress so easily. Nicely done. And these Banelings perhaps will be able to fight another day as that expansion has been taken down along with many of those SCVs. Taking a look at the unit count, 58 harvesters compared to 67 once again, as those Mutalisks are just trying to figure out what damage they can deal. Are they going to even bother with that missile turret? No, not even bothering to try to take down the missile turret, as those Marines are able to get underneath those Mutalisks and shoot them out of the sky. Marines are much fast, or slightly faster, excuse me, than Mutalisks in the when they're using that stim pack. But however, because of the shorter range on those Mutalisks, range of 3 versus a range of 5, those Marines are able to catch up some of that distance and get a lot of damage dealt. Back here, we do see another hatchery come in, being placed down. This hatchery has been up, and all it is really doing is harvesting gas so far, as Softball is currently running off of 8 Vespene geysers. So he will have a very, very strong geyser play, as these Zerglings now going to finish off this one missile turret, and down it goes. And now perhaps, no, not going to even try to bother to take down this location here, as those Mutalisks are now in the air, perhaps trying to deal some damage, as those Zerglings are just simply swarming, going to get a lot of damage dealt. Are those Banelings going to be able to get any damage across those Hellions is a key question. No, yes, able to get off a couple of those hits there, as those Mutalisks are now trying to finish off some of those siege tanks. Down they go. Zerglings now trying to finish off the rest, and now both sides once again getting a little bit reset, and now QXC only running off of 3 bases, and now Softball will be trying to run off of 5, eventually transferring, or this is just a skeleton crew here, not mining all too much. The unit count 75 harvesters with a lot of Banelings currently in production. And now we are getting the Zerg Flyer Attack level 2 upgrades. So those Mutalisks will be able to deal 11 damage per attack instead of just 9. A significant increase, more than a 10% increase in that base. And now we have one Thor on the move once again. We are upgrading to tier 3, and this means we may see a greater Spire. Taking a look in the base of QXC, QXC does not have a reactor on his starport, so if we do see some Broodlords, even if they are unescorted, those Broodlords will be able to deal a fair amount of damage. And before Vikings are really able to be massed. Back over here, Zerglings now trying to come in. Zerglings doing a quick surround on top of these units. Siege tanks now falling apart. Marines, in comes the Bane. Beautifully done. I gotta recap that. Yeah, let me just go ahead and recap that. So in comes this fight here. Zerglings now trying to run in, and the Banelings just suiciding themselves straight into the space. Down it goes. Down goes the planetary fortress. And now QXC, who had such a strong economic lead, finds himself down to 39 harvesters. Stay tuned for part 2 of this replay between Rook QXC and Softball here on Metalopolis.